They tell you the American dream is simple. Work hard, keep your head down, skip the overpriced avocado toast, invest in a 401k, marry someone who vaguely likes you, and eventually you'll retire in Florida, surrounded by pastel-colored polo shirts and golf carts that cost more than your first car. A beautiful fairy tale. Except, for most people, this story ends somewhere between a declined credit card and a GoFundMe for dental work. Because in America, teeth are optional, but patriotism is mandatory. Meanwhile, your neighbor, Chad III, yes, he has a Roman numeral in his name, wakes up at noon, wearing pajama pants woven from the guilt of underpaid interns, and somehow becomes richer while brushing his teeth. Not because he's a genius, not because he works hard, but because his great-grandfather accidentally invested in Coca-Cola instead of coal, and now every sip of soda buys Chad another rental property in Phoenix. The man's biggest struggle is choosing between buying another duplex or rescuing a French bulldog with anxiety. But don't worry, you're told everything will even out eventually. Merit will prevail. Effort is rewarded. Just ignore the fact that Chad's biggest accomplishment this year was posting a video titled, "My Morning Routine as a Wealthy Entrepreneur," that was actually just 5 minutes of jewelry unboxing and a close-up of his pores. America applauds him, calls him inspirational, and then promptly asks if you've tried waking up at 5 in the morning instead of 7. Because obviously success is just 2 extra hours of consciousness away. The irony is that when Americans say, "work hard," what they usually mean is work hard at pretending luck doesn't exist. You can't say someone is lucky. You have to say they're self-made, even if their first million fell out of a trust fund with the same grace as a piñata explosion at a Wall Street baby shower. In this country, babies get stocks before they get teeth. You get a student loan before you get a diploma. And somehow we're supposed to believe this is all fair and righteous. They say hard work builds character, which is amazing because character doesn't pay rent. Try going to a leasing office and offering them 3 months of character and a pristine work ethic. They'll call security faster than you can say bootstrap capitalism. But don't worry, American media has the solution. Becoming a millionaire is easy as long as you sacrifice hobbies, friendships, health, dignity, joy, free time, sleep, and the faint hope of ever touching grass. Just cut your streaming services and switch to black coffee, and suddenly you'll own a duplex in Austin. That's how Chad says it works anyway. Of course, nobody wants to admit that luck, not effort, is the ultimate cheat code. Being born in the right family, at the right time, in the right zip code, with the right complexion, and the right last name. America loves equality as long as everyone starts the race at different distances. One kid starts at mile 0. Another starts at mile 20 and still complains that the sun is in his eyes. Meanwhile, you're stuck trying to make minimum wage stretch like a yoga instructor in Malibu, pretending you don't resent the guy who keeps talking about passive income as if it's a birthright instead of an inheritance with a side of insider tax loopholes. Even the idea of making it is weirdly cinematic in America. Hollywood taught the country that every underdog becomes a champion. But nobody tells you that for every Rocky story, there are tens of thousands of guys named Kyle getting rejected from job applications that require 10 years of experience for an entry-level salary. Everyone wants the dramatic montage. Nobody wants the mediocre reality of networking events in hotel basements that smell like stale shrimp and disappointment. Parents love telling their kids they can be anything. "You can be an astronaut," they say, even though statistically the kid is more likely to become a part-time food delivery driver with a broken taillight delivering burritos to someone who actually did become an astronaut. But Americans don't stop believing. That's the national brand. Optimism-flavored denial. If the country had a slogan, it would be, "It'll probably work out," written in fancy calligraphy on a mug manufactured by an unpaid intern. And let's not forget the favorite myth. People fail because they don't try hard enough. Because obviously the reason you didn't become rich wasn't the economy, inflation, housing markets, automation, medical bills, or generational wealth gaps. It's because you took one day off in 2018 to go to your cousin's wedding, should have been hustling champ. Jeff Bezos would have been drop-shipping church candles during the reception. The funniest part is how America treats rich people like they're wizards. The wealthy are never just lucky. They're geniuses, visionaries, innovators. Even when the innovation was basically, have a rich dad and don't mess it up. No one calls a broke person a visionary. You can say the exact same idea, but if your net worth is negative, people assume you're delusional. If Chad says it, financial news calls it disruptive. If you say it, your family stages an intervention and asks if you're gambling again. But here's the real plot twist. Americans don't actually hate wealth. They worship it. They just hate not having it. They blame immigrants, lobbyists, college students, fancy coffee, millennial apathy, Generation Z nihilism, lazy people, hard-working people, and sometimes even Canada. Because blaming Canada is tradition. But nobody blames luck. That would make the whole ideology collapse like a discount folding chair at a 4th of July barbecue. And while you grind your life away trying to prove merit matters, Chad is on a yacht posting "never give up" quotes written in white font over ocean sunsets, sipping champagne bought with dividends he didn't know he had until his accountant emailed him a portable document file. Inspiring stuff. Chad keeps insisting the secret is discipline, as if waking up at 5 in the morning magically converts the American economy into an inspirational montage. He talks about mindset, the way evangelicals talk about salvation. If you just believe hard enough, the universe wires you a down payment in cash. Meanwhile, back in the non-influencer reality, your coworkers are deciding between paying for gas or buying groceries, and the universe appears to be on silent mode. But the comedy really shines when merit collides with nepotism. Americans love pretending that nepotism does not exist. They don't call it nepotism, they call it helping the next generation, as if the next generation needed help. It is always the kid who already won the genetic and financial lottery who gets the unpaid internship at the prestigious firm in Manhattan because he's passionate about finance. Of course he is. He has never experienced hunger except as a dietary choice. Meanwhile, you are told to network, which in America is a polite way of saying socialize strategically with rich people who have no intention of helping you. And still, Americans are loyal to the idea of meritocracy. It is religion without scripture. Anyone can make it, theoretically. That word, theoretically, is doing more heavy lifting than an overworked forklift in a Walmart warehouse. But nobody wants to talk about that. Instead, motivational posters tell you to hustle. Hustle harder. Hustle forever. Hustle until you forget what your own reflection looks like. Because nothing says mental health like romanticizing burnout while drinking energy drinks in a break room that smells like despair. Luck, however, is the thing that actually moves the needle. In America, luck is to success what gravity is to physics. Unavoidable, but ignored out of stubborn ideological pride. If you were born in the right town with the right parents at the right time, you win a game you never had to learn. And if you weren't, you get to read self-help books that insist you are only 3 inspirational quotes away from owning a mansion. As if mansions appear when you manifest hard enough. The only thing that appears when you manifest is targeted ads. The truth is, America loves the underdog story but hates actual underdogs. Underdogs need resources, support, healthcare, and functioning systems, and that's just unreasonably expensive. Better to keep the fantasy alive on television while telling real people to pull themselves up by bootstraps nobody can afford. Bootstraps are a metaphor now. Their physical form has been priced out of the working class. On top of that, wealth is sticky. Like humidity in Florida or mayonnaise in the Midwest, it clings to those who already have it. Money makes money in a way labor never could. If you save $5 a day for 30 years, financial gurus promise you will eventually retire with dignity. Meanwhile, if Chad passively invests $50,000 once, he becomes the landlord of half a city block by the time he turns 25. And when he explains this on podcasts, America calls him innovative, not lucky. Because acknowledging luck would mean acknowledging that the system is rigged, and Americans prefer a rigged game to no game at all. The most bizarre part is how Americans treat poverty as a moral failure. If you are broke, the assumption is that you did something wrong. You didn't grind hard enough. You didn't optimize your mornings. You didn't read the right books. You didn't stop buying lattes before dawn. Meanwhile, if you are wealthy, people assume you are morally superior, as if the universe chose you as a favorite. Wealth becomes proof of goodness. Poverty becomes proof of incompetence. The logic is flawless if you are a lizard wearing a tie and working at the Federal Reserve. Then there is inheritance, the final boss of luck. The American dream pretends inheritance does not matter, while inheritance screams in the background like a toddler in a grocery store. People inherit houses, stocks, mutual funds, businesses, art collections, and sometimes entire identities. You inherit debt and unopened envelopes that make a rattling sound when shaken. And somehow, both of you are considered to have the same chance at success. It is adorable, in a dystopian way. But what really keeps the ideology alive is hope. Hope is the most profitable export America ever created. It fuels lotteries, credit cards, political campaigns, college applications, startup pitches, and gym memberships that nobody uses. Hope convinces the working class that one day they might join the wealthy, and in the meantime, they should defend them. It is economic Stockholm syndrome, but with better branding. Chad will tell you he started with nothing, which in his case means, I only had one trust fund. Americans nod. Inspired, because nothing is more patriotic than exaggerating hardship. If Chad ever had to fly economy even once, newspapers would run a special report about resilience. Meanwhile, if you miss one rent payment, you become a cautionary tale about the dangers of irresponsibility. The final trick is how America sells the dream globally. People around the world see movies where hardworking people become heroes. They don't see the fine print. The dream is real, but it has limited seating, no refunds, and requires generational wealth to skip the line. Everyone else must wait in a queue that never moves, listening to motivational speeches about hustle culture and grit. In the end, merit versus luck in America is not really a debate. Merit is a garnish, luck is the entree. But nobody wants to flip that script, because once you admit luck matters, the dream loses its magic. And what is America without magic? Just a giant mall pretending to be a country. Still, Americans keep working. They keep grinding. They keep waking up early, taking online courses, watching motivational videos, skipping vacations, and calling it ambition instead of survival. Because maybe, just maybe, the next promotion, the next deal, the next side hustle, the next lucky break will finally change everything. And if it doesn't, at least there is always the satisfaction of believing you tried. Meanwhile, Chad posts another inspirational sunset photo from his yacht, captioned, "Never give up," and America applauds without noticing the irony. Maybe the dream is not about winning. Maybe it is about maintaining the illusion that winning is possible. Because illusions are cheaper than social reform, and America loves a bargain. And sure, maybe one day merit will finally outrun luck, but until then, the country will keep pretending that grinding harder is a form of destiny. Because in America, hope is the last currency that never devalues. And if any part of that hit a little too close to home, go ahead and subscribe. It won't change the system, but it'll make the next dose of truth a lot funnier. Drop a comment telling me which you believe actually runs this country. Merit, luck, or plain old inheritance. And if you're feeling generous, share this with someone who still thinks hard work works by itself. I'm dying to see their reaction.